Hey, this is Matt with Let's Talk Music. I'm here with Gigi of Glazergirl. We're going to talk about her newest single, Amnesia of Me, featuring Zach Marinac.
Maranowick.
Marinawick. Okay,
Maranowick. Yes.
gotcha. And it's off of the EP Mothership. So,
Correct.
first off, we've already done our introductions, but how are you doing?
I am most groovy. Thank you.
All right. So, you're out of Miami.
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, I'm going to be not too far from you here in about 26 days.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Where you
I'm
gonna
in
be?
Port Canaveral.
That's about 3 hours, and it's a nice place.
Yeah, it's Florida's an awful big state. People don't realize that, but yeah, top to bottom is
Huge.
huge. Yeah.
Huge. I'm up in Daytona a lot and the Canaveral area a lot. So you're gonna have a wonderful time if you're coming for a visit. Are you going to Cape Canaveral or are you just visiting friends and family?
We're going to Cape Canaveral. We're actually catching a cruise ship out of there.
Cool. Good for
So
you.
yeah, it's been 3 years in the making. Can't wait. COVID and everything else has screwed it up, which I'm sure COVID screwed up everything for everybody.
Screwed up the music. Screwed
Oh
up
yeah,
for everyone. So there's that.
right. So let's talk about amnesia of me. That is a metaphor for dementia, correct? Which is what your mother suffers from.
Yes, it's literally you're losing yourself. Amnesia of me. And did you get a chance to see the music video or no?
I did.
So in the beginning of the video, which is on YouTube, you're going to see a piano, and the piano is turning, and there's pictures and less pictures and less pictures, and that's an example or metaphor for losing memories.
Right. Yeah, I can relate with you on that. My mom was just diagnosed about a year ago. Um, she's she's not too far advanced yet. My uncle was also diagnosed. He, I guess, is a lot worse off. He lives out in California. I've talked to him several times. I guess, it's part of the disease where if they remember you well, they can still carry on just a normal conversation like nothing's
Yep.
wrong.
Yep.
But according to his wife, quite a things have been forgotten and whatever. So
Short-term memory, it's like 10-Second Tom from that movie with Drew Barrymore.
yeah, 51st.
Where, yeah, that one. So you're telling a story, and then mom will say, oh, what's new? You've told her like five different times what's new, but it's new every time. So
Right.
it's part of it. She's in the beginning too, but we don't need to get all dark.
No.
But the song is essentially to bring awareness of the subject matter, which can be very uncomfortable for people, but they have to understand. I tried to do it with beauty. First of
Mhm.
all, the music is amazing. George Pond, who produced it, and he and Jay Munch, who put the music together, did a spectacular job. The storyline behind it is a tough storyline. It's a tough metaphor for the situation because I think there's a lot of people who understand that the caretakers are taken as they're helping to care for the individual, and the individual is not always understanding, but having moments of clarity of what's going on. And it's awful. But
Yes.
I think that it doesn't have to be about that. There are plenty of other situations people have had with family members or friends where they kind of seem to disappear into the illness. But what you don't realize is very often they're struggling to come out of it. Hence,
Right.
they're like a bird of prey trying to find themselves, to see themselves and see if it's their eyes again. And it's not their eyes right now, that they're not recognizing themselves. That's my actual mom that's in the video,
Uh-huh.
and that's my childhood home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's very close to home, but it's really for everybody. I just think if you like to jam out, then that's really a cool tune. If you're into lyrics, I am putting a lyric video up of it for people who like to sing along. And it's not like the early 80s when we'd be in our car singing the wrong line. What was it in that movie? The Long Kiss Goodnight, and Samuel L. Jackson is trying to sing something about the linen. God, I don't even know if I can remember it. Anyway, it was the wrong lyrics. But if I could help out with that, that's the purpose behind that.
Right, right. So I read that the album has a purple ribbon on the back,
Yeah.
and so in the video, your purple makeup and hair, was that to
Yep.
coincide with that?
Yep. And the stripe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And a lot of purple in it to bring awareness. I did reach out to the Alzheimer's Association pertaining to it, and they were very receptive. And I hashtag music moments because there's a lot of artists where they have something meaningful to them that they put in their music and it's relevant to the topic. So yeah, the purple's for that. I happen to like the color purple a lot. So it's unfortunate, but it did work out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of the color purple myself. My two favorite colors are black and red, but yeah, uh,
Well, that's what your background is. So there you go.
right. So, other songs on there is The Kingdom, The
Yes.
Liar's Way, Don't Weep, and Chilly Flower. Now, I read that this is your personal aspects of what's going on in the world is what these songs all kind of are about.
Is it that it's so much that it's what goes on in the world and as much as it's just relevant to what's going on in the world. It was actually unintentional and it just worked out that way. I like to tell stories. So
Mm-hmm.
the next song that I'm going to release at the end of the month is going to be The Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about, we come into the world naked and we go out of the world naked. You can't take it with you. And getting away from the technology. And, the kids are sitting and they're texting and they don't talk to each other.
Uh,
And people are eating dinner in front of the TV and they're not talking to each other. It's about getting a little more spiritual. It's non-denominational. It's really just supposed to reach out and be more like there's a higher power. And, let's try to bring back some spirituality into our lives, and get away from things. There's a line in the song, well, you could bring me flowers, but it'll come from the book of Job, or you could bring me silver, or you could bring me gold. But the kingdom's in ruins. The story is very old. But it's not
okay.
specifically that. You've got your deadly sins, and you've got your, it happens to be in the book of Romans something, I do as I do, not as I should do or ought to do. It's a multi-genre song too. It's a really great rocking song, but I think the worship community can appreciate it, as well as somebody said to me they can line dance to it. I was like, what? But it's
Wow.
really a hard rock song. It's just maybe it's the nature of the beat. I don't
Right.
know. It's very cool. I have a little teaser up on Facebook. I don't know if you got a chance to check that out. It's the chorus, or
Okay.
the
I have to check
chorus, I
it
don't
out.
recall. And if you go, every song has its own value, but not everything is heavy topics.
Right.
You've got the liar's way, which is really a metaphor for anybody who's been in a relationship situation. You're really into someone, they're really into you, and you see that they're falling for you, and maybe you can't grasp it the way they are, and you're like, no, no, run away before you fall. And the problem is you're really into it. So there's a line and it talks about the hours, a metaphor for the physical aspect of it, how you're enjoying the hours with them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a very sexy song. um and it's for anybody who's been in a situation like that, whether they were the individual who couldn't give more, or were on the other end where it was unrequited and they're sad. But it's still very sexy.
Right.
Rock, sexy rock. Rock is sexy. I mean,
Yes, it
I don't
is.
know, a rock song has to kind of turn you on when you listen to it. So they
Right.
each have their own facet. Um, I'm like going off. I'm sorry. It's the
Oh,
ADD.
you're fine.
Um, the song Don't Weep came from a story I heard between people I know about a third party that they know about someone in an abusive situation, or that she allows for it, or why doesn't she do anything about it? Unless you're in the middle of something, you can't judge a person until you've walked a day in that person's shoes.
Correct.
But there's a line in the pre-chorus, about fear is her scent, but who pays your rent?
Mm-hmm.
And there are the people who are predators of the weak in the situation of their loss with the self.
Mm-hmm.
They smell your fear, they take advantage of you, and sometimes you can't figure out how to get out. think there was a cat. They can't figure out how to get out of their circumstance. So it's a little heavy, but I think it would make for a very cool video to kind of express the situation. Um, I think it's relevant to today. I think that during the whole period of COVID in 2020, a lot of people at home together. It's a lot of one-on-one. There was, I believe, a rise in domestic abuse.
Right.
So it's relevant to today, but it's not specific.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anything. Maybe you don't know how to get into something. Maybe you don't know how to talk to a friend. Hey, I need help with. A lot of people don't want to be involved with something.
Right.
It's just a reality check. It's just a story that I retold in a
Okay.
way, metaphorically. Everything's metaphorically. One of the really cool songs, well, I think it's cool because I think it's cool, but I think they're all cool. Chili Flower. Now,
Mm-hmm.
here you have an idea. When you think of flowers, you're thinking beauty and warmth and serenity, peace. I have a friend who grew up in a neighborhood where the house behind the house was a wall, and on the other side of the wall was more like a commercial zoning. And there was a robbery, and the thief jumped the wall and ran through the garden that his mother had made. He's a little boy, he's like 4 years old, sees something shiny under the flowers. It's a gun.
Oh, wow.
And he picked it up and he pointed it at his older brother. But thankfully, there wasn't a tragedy, and his brother was able to get the gun from him and give it to his mom, and the cops were called. So, chili flower is literally what's supposed to be about what? About warmth and the darkness that creeps in. So, I'm thinking about it now. It's like, that's not fun, but it's a great song. The guitar works great. I'm very into it.
Yeah.
But it's
Good.
cool. It's positive, positive thing in the end. You have your brother and everything's good and nothing happened, but it's like a woulda, coulda been. So
Uh,
they each stand on their own.
I kind of I dig you even more now. Um, I love that you tell a story with all of your songs. And I can just tell by talking to you and our brief conversation before we started recording that you have a profound love for music.
Yes.
And I mean, you named your cat Dio. That's pretty freaking awesome. So, that's the way I am. I really, like I've told other people that I've interviewed, I really have had my eyes opened with doing the independent artist. It's been great. I mean, I've done quite a few of them now. I think you're going to be my 88th, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, and this
Okay.
is within like the last 6, 7 months. So, there's great music everywhere. It doesn't matter the genre anymore to me. I was, solely rock and, heavy metal and, I don't want to hear this, I don't want to hear that. And I mean, I still feel like some things mainstream I'm not going to get into, but um,
What do you mean by that? Some things are mainstream.
well, no, some things mainstream like country anymore. I don't feel like it's country. I
It's become more rock and roll, actually.
Yeah, it's
Very exciting.
right that
There are
or
always great
pop.
stories when you listen to country.
Right, but I mean, I'm when I grew up, I was like, uh, oh, who was I listening to back then? John Anderson and people like that. And now it's just it feels more poppy to me. But I mean,
Is that a dislike you have for it?
this
If I
it
may interview you.
in a way, I understand the progression of music. It happens, but it seems like I turn on a country station and I'm like, man, this just doesn't sound like country, but maybe that's just because I don't listen to it enough. I mean, I haven't really, given it a wholehearted shot like I should.
Everything's gone through a metamorphosis as time goes by. You don't necessarily lose the essence of it because what's old becomes new, and what's new came from the old.
Right.
When you were listening to skiffle music, the English were playing, a lot of their stuff came from what they called it the slave music. There's a movie on it called Cadillac Records, and they talk about
Hmm.
how rock and roll developed and how it came from blues.
Right.
Then when you fast forward, 70s is all yummy and a lot of chicken chicken, bah, bah, a lot of the guitar like that. When you get into the 80s, the vocalists are more operatic. They're
Right.
spectacular. Like I just am in awe. I'm just and you
Hmm.
pull into the 90s and they're less about storytelling, or no, I take that back. They're not less about storytelling, they're a little more emotional, it's darker. The
Right.
vocalist may not be, I mean, Chris Cornell is a huge influence on me. And it's
Hmm.
not because he had the most spectacular voice. If you want to talk about Sebastian Bach, talk about David Coverdale,
Hmm.
talk about Dio. There's just something astounding about their vocals.
Right.
When you go into the 90s, it gets a little darker. You're in flannel at this point. You don't know what to do with your pleather and your chains, which I kept in my closet and then I still have them. But um, that music is very soulful. He could emote. Lane Staley, Alice in Chains, God
Yes.
rest his soul. I call it heroin angst. I mean, it's not a nice thing to say. I feel like he gave so much in his interpretation of what he put out there. And maybe it wasn't intentional. It's just how it came across to me. So you
Right.
fast forward today, and now they're talking about active rock. Now, what is really active rock? You're going to be listening to Octane on the satellite. You're going to be listening to Ozzy's Boneyard. You're going to be listening to, although this weekend Hair Nation was just spectacular on satellite. But the active rock, and then the responses I'm getting from what I'm doing, which is based in active rock, I'm hearing that I'm getting a lot of modern. I'm disappearing into the background. Did I do something wrong? I'm hearing that I'm being received overseas as modern,
Okay.
and I'm not thinking of modern like uh, from the late '80s, no, mid '80s. You know, level 42 kind of modern. Maybe I'm classifying it wrong, but modern active rock now, and overseas, it's becoming something that they really get into.
Okay.
A lot of things from overseas that were heavy metal and like Rammstein, who's like you're finding them over here now.
Hmm.
So they're all evolving. I think it's a question of how the artist today chooses to emote or not emote. There are some amazing rockers, female rockers, male rockers, and a lot of the songs were just about good times. If you looked at Motley Crue, it was, girls
Oh yeah.
and parties. And then you look at the flannel wearing 90s, and it was a little different, not as jovial.
Hmm.
But I think there's a lot of room for a lot of different voices if people are open to it. The problem is everyone has a really short attention span just
Yes.
because of the nature of technology, that everything is high speed.
Hmm.
And you're lucky if you get a guitar solo. I had a short guitar solo in Amnesia of me from Zach. I just
Right.
wanted one in there. I felt it needed it. I love that kind of music, but people
Yeah.
don't have patience for it. So they got comfortable with 90s grunge rock because there was a lot less of that. But the songs weren't necessarily shorter, they were just topically different.
Right. And I mean, I've realized with a lot of music, the recent music and interviews that I've done, a lot of them are bringing the guitar solos back.
Isn't that great?
It is. I miss that so
That
much.
makes me so happy.
Yeah, because I was 80s, 90s was my era.
Right? Yeah, me too.
And you mentioned names like Sebastian Bach and David Coverdale. I mean, Sebastian, in my opinion, is one of the best singers of all time. I mean, the
He
dude,
just put out another album like in the
yeah,
last year or so. He has not lost a hitch in his voice.
no, no,
You know who
he,
also hasn't lost a hitch in his voice?
who's
Sammy
that?
Hagar. The guy can still belt it out, and it's a totally different voice. Sebastian
Right.
Bach is almost operatic. He's tremendous.
Oh yeah, yeah, and he's what in his 80s now?
Who?
Sammy.
Sammy Hagar. I don't think he's 80 yet. I
He's
thought he was in his 70s. Is he up there?
he's up there somewhere, 70s, I know at least. But it
Well, he must have
doesn't
done something right. No health food for him.
right. And it looks like I mean, doesn't look like he's aged a day since
No, not
but
at all.
So you were talking about, some of your influences. Like what female artists influenced you?
I mostly listened to what my brother and sister were listening to when I was younger. And, I listened to Carole King and Billy Joel and Prince and Pat Benatar and Stevie Nicks. So if you're listening to today's voices, I don't know if I would call them influences as much as I just kind of really get into it because I'm impressed with what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
Lizzie Hale is really tremendous, and she has a very interesting way about her
Mm-hmm.
from Hailstorm, the way she's very melodic, and then she can go into the scream, but she's not doing no Cookie Monster music.
Right.
I don't really get into that, but it's got its own purpose and its own sound. If you listen to Ginger, she's got this incredible voice. But then she has her scary demonic voice, that comes out, and I'm like, wow. But as far as influences, you got Lita Ford, who was out there forever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Joan Jett, Pat Benatar, Stevie Nicks. I don't know. There's a bunch of others. I listen to everything. I really can't put my thumb on one particular person that's a standout for me. I might have an aha moment, say, "Ooh, I know who it is." But I found I listened to more male vocalists just because of how I grew up.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying I listened to Carly Simon. She's always been awesome.
Yeah.
You're So Vain, great story. Or if
Yes.
you listen to Cher, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves. Maybe not a favorite for some people in the nature of the music. Great story, though. Listen to the words. I'm into that. Some people are just into rocking out and they're not into the words.
Right.
But some of them have a way of telling a story. It's just that's what makes a vocalist special to me.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with that. It is great to hear, like, well, Queensryche, for instance,
Hmm.
Operation Mindcrime, was a great storytelling album. It just when you can really pick up on that, I think is what makes it more special. Because I mean, there's plenty of songs to rock out to, but when you have meaningful lyrics, I feel like that makes the song even more special. Like, your song has a purpose, and when I heard it, I mean, I could already kind of grasp what it was. And then, when I got the press release, I was like, oh my God, I've got to get this interview because, like I said, I can relate with you. And, it's a deep subject, but the thing is like you're releasing yours through your music. And like I'm just listening to your music and I'm like, okay, I feel how she's feeling. And it's something that kind of, bonds us just because of the music, not necessarily the illness or anything, but your music touches people. And
So
that
nice to hear.
well, it does. And that's what's, I mean, that's what a good storyteller, songwriter does.
It's an important song on a lot of levels. The album itself is named Mothership. I dedicated it to my mom while, she could still kind of pick up on it. I don't think at this point that she remembers she was in the video.
Hmm.
And every time I tell her the album is named for her because she's the center of the familial universe, and she's the mothership and all her little planets and ships and whatever that meet up with her. It's always new now. Oh, really? She gets all
Right.
excited again. So it's like sad. It's like bittersweet.
Right.
But I have a lot of stories to tell that I've gotten from people. I haven't produced all of it yet. This was my first solo project. I
Right.
fronted a metal band about 3 years ago, and I was just talking to the guys the other day, and that band's no is currently defunct as of about 3 months ago.
Mm.
Um, but to me, I'm very driven to share. And this EP is just 5 songs, and I think it's just because I wasn't sure really how it was going to be received. I'm confident in how it's being received.
Hmm.
Getting a lot of overseas interest, I think currently local hasn't picked it up yet. America is tough.
Yes.
I'm getting a lot from Italy and the UK. Um, and the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
And as of late, completely like to the east, I'm getting a lot of messaging from people from the Philippines.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I just think it's real hard rock that drives home. I think it's very possible to make it beautiful at the same time. The purpose of that video as it was done was so that it would be truthfully something for the family later down the road
Mm-hmm.
to have a positive response to, that they saw her happy and involved and reflected upon in a good way. Because I think a lot of people, if they're dealing with this on some level with their families, that whether it's this or just an elderly family member or God forbid, a sick child or a friend who's been through something, it holds something for everybody. But you don't have to be that deep. You could just enjoy it. I mean, if you enjoy the pre-chorus and the chorus, you'll wake up and you'll sing, lost again, lost again, lost again. Am I lost again? And who are you? And who am I? So, I mean, it'll stay as long as it stays with you, then why not?
That was pretty awesome, by the way.
What?
You're singing right there.
Oh, I was just playing. But thank you.
Well, it still sounded good. I liked it.
Oh, good. You're smiling. So that makes me happy.
Well, it's yeah. I mean, music makes me happy. It's
We
it
should try to be positive. Music should be positive.
right. It truly does. And what else makes me happy is being able to talk to people like you, being able to talk to the artist that created something that makes me feel the way I feel. It's I don't care what type of art it is. I mean, you got people that are into physical art. You know what I mean? They can look
Mhm.
at a painting and it makes them feel some type of way. I mean, there's people that have wept over a painting.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I've
music,
tried. I can't always get into it. It's hard for me.
right, but music is the same way. I mean, there's songs that, have brought tears to your eyes or have made you like laugh and kind of cry in happiness remembering a certain time with a friend or a family member or something that just it's almost like almost like your brain is a movie theater, and like you hear a song and all of a sudden these memories kind of just visually pop up. You're like, oh my God, I remember this time, that was so great.
Remember that bad date? Do you remember your first date? Do you remember do you remember where you were? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Right, right. So I think it's just great. And I mean, I I admire every one of you for what you do. I enjoyed the song. I can't wait to listen to the rest of the album. I think you are definitely on the right track with this. I mean, you have a fantastic voice.
Thank you.
Judging by your video, you're a great performer. How about your live shows? I mean, you get down pretty good on stage, or
I haven't done live yet for this album.
okay,
Okay, but previous albums, I like to think I'm very active,
okay,
or I'm expressive. I
right,
think it's important when you're in music to remember who you are, that you're sharing a piece of yourself in some capacity. It's not just an act, it's a part of who you are.
mm-hmm,
Um, if you want to really, I'm actually very shy in person. If you put me in a bar to meet someone, I have that, am I allowed to say this? I have like resting bitch face. No one's going to come up to me. But if I was performing a show and I had to do, 13 years ago, whatever, live shows, and then there's a break, I didn't know what to do during a break. I'm like, how do I talk to people? It was very hard for me. I felt more at ease once I got up front. So the performance is part of who you are. It's where your excitement comes from.
right,
You're giving a piece of yourself to people to share, and you have to remember who you are when you're doing that, and you have to remember it's not who you knew when, but who you know well over time.
right,
Available to your listener, and if they want to contact you and talk to you, if they have an idea, to be friendly, to be kind, your music should come across. Listen, people have purposes. They're out there and they're angry and they're sharing and they're expressing themselves, and maybe it's catharsis.
mm-hmm,
I just, whether you're singing in the Hebrew school choir, hello, or you're performing in the school play or in college, you hope to put your best foot forward. And maybe I can be a little over dramatic sometimes, but it is fun.
Right.
I enjoy it, but I don't get as into it if I were doing cover music, not because I'm against it. I just really have things I want to say,
Right.
and that kind of is my priority
I
at the
I
moment.
can definitely appreciate that.
Mhm.
So just touching on, you said you haven't done any live shows yet. Do you have any plans of doing any here in the near future, or is that maybe going to hit next year?
Probably within the next year, I'm hoping to. I had a lot of great opportunity prior to COVID where my band and I was gonna open for a small national on a couple different options for a metal fest up in Tennessee, and then just COVID hit and everything kept getting rescheduled and rescheduled and rescheduled, and just everything it was like death. So I haven't, rewound the cord yet. I'm deciding if somebody wants to take it on. Do I want to hire musicians? Because I'm solo at this point and I like having so what I'm looking for, control
Mm-hmm.
of what I'm playing, what I'm doing. I don't know. Because you have to have people on the same page. Or if, you're gonna do where people have their backing music and they sing. I would always sing live.
Right.
I don't know at this point. I would love to open for someone because right now the material's limited at the moment because I still have other work that I want to record pertaining to the same genre, the same basic effect, but just a bunch more that I've written. And I haven't gotten a chance to really work on that yet because it's been the last 2 years that I've worked on this and I'm just starting to get it out. So, I'd love to open for somebody, on that level as I was going to previously. Um, it would be great.
Awesome. All right, Gigi. Well, we are almost out of time. I'm at 1 minute and 47 seconds left because I don't have the pro version of Zoom.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, it gives you 40 minutes and then it tells you it cuts it off. So unless you want to pay for it, but I mean, most of the interviews are, they get close. So that means we had a good talk.
Okay.
So, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate your message on your song, and I look forward to listening to the new stuff here, and just you know, getting you out there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's my whole goal with this is to get my audience to hear you, and then maybe they'll
Awesome.
pass it on to other people.
That's all it takes. Word of mouth. Somebody really enjoying it. Somebody in their car
Yeah.
pulling Wayne's World where you're,
Right.
Bohemian Rhapsody
Yes, ma'am.
kind of thing. I love that anthems and things like that. So yeah, I get you.
All
Thank you
right.
so much for having me. I appreciate it. The
No.
album is called Mothership. It is under Glazergirl. Gigi is just a nickname they gave me because it was easier.
All right, lady. I will hopefully talk to you again here soon in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.